Shalom.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have our coffee, and we're sitting at our table again, and we're ready
Welcome.
welcome. Yes, I'm kind of tired this morning.
We did not sleep well. So for anybody that lives in Tennessee or North Carolina, anywhere in the South, we're hit hard yesterday with very high winds that and storms last night. All last night we were up all night last night with just insane. We already have high winds on the mountain, but yesterday was like, I mean, we have pine trees that you can see this big window in front of us, and they were just like swaying. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah, it was a lot. It kept us up all night, and but we had our first lamb born yesterday, right before the storm.
Yeah,
and
in the middle, but it was like overcast and windy. It was like not great conditions to have a lamb.
And they always do that. It seems like the first one's born with snow or something. But the first one was a male, and that is always our Passover lamb
for the next year.
For the next year, yeah. So this one is Judah. So we've been naming them after the tribes of Israel. It's our fourth lambing season. Yeah. So it's gonna be cool. So
he's a cute little squirt.
Yeah.
And so he's whiny.
Yeah, he's very whiny. So, but I mean, he'll be given to Yah, and that's that's what we, at our attempt to follow the Torah the best we possibly can, and that's what we do every Passover. And so this is so much sweeter and more meaningful to raise your own lamb, bring it in on the 10th day of the first month, and on the 14th day, have a cookout, grill it over the fire. In our mindset, in our culture, we're so far removed from where our food, especially our meat comes from. And this is so much better to do it this way. So much more meaningful than picking up lamb at the store sometimes. Yeah. No offense to anyone doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's different. Every time I have to kill a lamb, I almost sometimes I'm shedding tears, and especially at Passover, I'm shedding tears because it reminds me of Yeshua, and it brings us back to that. It brings us back to Messiah and what he did for us, and the lamb who was slain to take away the sin of the earth. So anyways, I don't know why I started talking about that. But
well, because the New Year's upon us. It's coming.
We're getting close.
The feast days are coming, and it's almost like when our lambs typically give birth right around the New Year, right around the spring feast kick off with Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it's very special for us. It means so much more. We talked, I think the last week we talked about Passover and how we just want to get back to that, I don't say a feeling, but we want to get back to the joy that we once had with keeping the feast days, and it being less about us being right in so many of the aspects of the feast days, of the timing of when it is, and doing everything. Obviously we want to do everything to the best of our ability with a broken, contrite heart before Yah. But I think for us, it's just, we want to have that feeling again, right?
Yeah, it was, we were a little ignorant in our first Passover, but very ignorant. I'm sorry. We were very ignorant. We still are.
We're getting less ignorant, but
yeah. But it was sweet,
It was sweet, and it was just our family, and it wasn't, we have gathered with other families, and it has been such a joyous occasion. But the fact that we're supposed to eat our meal within our home, and we have a small home, it's just, I have loved, I loved last year, and I'm looking forward to it just being like our little family, and preparing the Pesach for our meal that evening. And yeah, it's just, this is like the primary reason we decided to raise lamb was because we didn't know where the lamb was coming from, how it was being slaughtered, kind of in the rituals surrounding that. And so when we started digging into it, it just created more of a desire for us to say, okay, if we're going to prepare and have lamb for Passover, why don't we raise it? And it was such an easy, it was like, Yah just gave us this gift and said, yeah, you're going to raise some lamb. And we had no plans to do it. And actually, we were going to raise baby doll sheep at first because we had gone to this Airbnb on the sheep farm. And we love I almost said Catawba, but we love the baby doll. But then ultimately we went with Shetland, and I think Shetland's sort of a perfect breed, especially for Passover, because you're only supposed to have a lamb prepared that's enough food for your family, and that's really
they're small.
They're small breeds.
Yeah.
Sorry, this isn't a sheep video.
And they're tough as nails.
They are tough
it's
as
like
nails.
pouring down snow and rain and blizzard conditions, and they're just sitting there eating. They could care less. And they literally, they have their babies out in the field. We don't have to. There's hardly any intervention. Sometimes we do, I guess, if we have to. There's a rejected one, but there's no intervention. I mean, we just walk out, and all of a sudden we got lambs. It's amazing. Okay, so.
Anyway, so can you tell we're excited about the feast?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not doing the feast yet, and you're like, what is this feast talk? We're not supposed to be doing that. We're the church or whatever. Or we're under the age of grace, whatever you've been told.
Yeah.
The feasts are forever. They are Yahuwah's days. They're actually his days in Leviticus 23. Mm-hmm. These are his feasts. They're forever. They're done in the heavens. That's in Isaiah and Psalms. Jubilees talks about it as well. These feasts have been done forever, and they are done in the heavens by the angels themselves. And we will be doing them again. Mm-hmm. Jeremiah 31 in the LXX says, when the second Exodus, I think it's second Exodus. I might be getting ahead of myself.
Feast of Yahuwah.
Yeah, we're regathered on a feast of Yahuwah.
Yeah.
Whether or not you believe the Millennial Kingdom has happened or is to happen, you're going to be required to keep Sukkot, which is another feast of Yahuwah, during the Millennial Kingdom. The feasts are literally, you believe in the Ten Commandments. Most Christians would agree. We believe in the Ten Commandments. Well, which set? Is it the first ones he brought down, that he broke, and then he went back up and got them again? They're the same, but read where they're written.
Yeah.
Exodus 20, literally in the next chapter, is talking about the feasts. The same thing when you go to Exodus 30 when they're re-given. These feasts are constant throughout Scripture. It is what Yah requires of you. As his follower, he requires you to meet him on specific days. And they're amazing. They're not a burden. They're incredible. I mean, our Elohim is amazing because he says, hey, I want you to work hard with your hands 6 days a week. Not 5, 6 days a week. And then on 1 day a week, you can just rest. You don't have to do anything.
Do nothing.
And how many Christians argue with us like, no, we don't want to keep Sabbath, we don't need to keep Sabbath? Well, who cares? It's amazing. Why would you not want to rest?
Why are you fighting?
It's an incredible,
it's such a beautiful gift.
It's a gift, yeah. And the feast days are the same thing. There are, of course, Sabbaths within the feast days, extra Sabbaths, and he's saying, hey, come on, let's feast. Mm-hmm. Let's have a meal together. I want you to have a meal with me, for me. Prepare something for me, especially on like Shavuot. You're thanking him for all the provision. If you don't do that, if you don't do Shavuot, like we're not giving homage to Yah for all the stuff he's given us, for everything he's given us, especially if you have a farm or anything like that, and you're actually growing it yourself. It's all for you if you're not doing Shavuot. Mm-hmm. It's such pride. It's saying, look what I have grown, look what I did. Instead of having Shavuot where you bring in your offering, your first fruits to Yah, and you say, look, Yah, what you did.
It's so special.
Same thing with Sukkot, the ingathering. Mm-hmm. This is the end of the harvest season. You get to bring in everything on there too. Have a meal. Is it Deuteronomy 14 talks about having strong drink? Like what? Our Father says you can have some drinks? Yeah, it's amazing. Now, don't overdo it, but, it's like, it's an incredible time. So, if you're not doing them, do them.
Yeah.
Well, they're required of you.
And it is Jeremiah 31, verse 8, but it's in the LXX, it's Jeremiah 38, 8, where Yahuwah says, I'm bringing them from the land of the north and shall gather them from the ends of the earth to the Feast of Passover. That's what the LXX says.
Yes.
So to the Feast of Passover. So I just wanted to, so if you have an LXX, or just go to the Bible app or the Strong's, and you can look at it there.
And by the way, that's already happened, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Those are the 10 tribes brought back from Azareth, but we'll talk about that another time.
Sure. one more thing, and it just made me think of just, and this isn't like we're not trying to pit ourselves against people that, about against Christianity or anything else, because we were once there and thought we were doing the right thing, thought we were following God's ways to the best of our ability with belief in Jesus and Yeshua. But I would just, challenge anybody that says like that it's been changed or it's been fulfilled or Yeshua, created a whole different set of holidays or whatever you believe, whatever you've previously believed. I just encourage you to just start at the beginning of the Bible and read it. Read it from Genesis. Stop reading it from the New Testament from the halfway through the book. Nobody reads a book from the middle.
From the end.
Or from the end.
I mean, I did in high school.
That's that was for your book reports.
I didn't read a single book in high school, not one.
But it makes me think.
Or college.
Yeah, but it makes me think, because we just recently went through the Kings, it makes me think of Josiah. So Yah's law was all but lost, and his ways were all but forgotten. And Josiah comes in, and one of the most righteous kings that we learn about at such a young age, and we find that he rediscovers the instructions, God's law.
He's having the temple
as he's having the temple
renovated.
Yeah, renovated.
And they find the Torah. and what's the first thing he does?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, what is it? I thought you knew.
Oh, no, I thought you were going to say.
That was going to be your point, because that was really good, because the first thing he does, he says, let's keep Passover.
Yeah.
That's the very first thing. Like, it's incredible.
No, I was just going to let you, that's what I was going to say, but I'm just letting you.
Oh, you should have said
No, go ahead. It's fine. No.
That was a good point.
No, I mean, and it says that they kept Passover according to the book of the covenant. So when we talk about Yah's law, it's intertwined with the covenant. It's not like this, it's just, I don't even get into the covenant. We need to do a video on that. But anyways, but I love it because if you go to, we talk about the book of the covenant in Josiah, 2 Kings 23, but if you go to Exodus 24, Moshe took, and this is, it basically says he took the book of the covenant, Moshe did, and read in the hearing of the people, and they said, all that Yahuwah has spoken, we shall do and obey. And pair that with what Josiah did, and he rediscovered Yah's law, and that's what Yah's people are doing today. We are rediscovering the truth that has been buried and hidden from us our entire lives. And all we are simply saying is we will do and obey Yah.
And saying, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Like a little child.
Oh, my goodness. And that's all Josiah did. That's all Moshe did. That's all the prophets did. That's what Yeshua did. He said, yes, sir, I'll do. You sent me here. I will do it. I will obey it. And I will walk it out perfectly so generations to come will know how to do it. Even though we fail every single day trying to keep his ways, that humble, contrite heart and that the mercy of Yah is what brings me back to trying to keep his ways, his laws, his ordinances, his instruction every day. Because I know even though I fail, and I fail every single day, Yah's mercy, his faithful love endures forever. It endures my sin, it endures my failures. But at the end of the day, he knows that I desire to walk this narrow path with my family and to prepare my soul for the kingdom to the best of my ability. Anyways, sorry.
That's good.
I thought of Josiah because it's like, go read your Bible. Here you have a perfect example of someone who didn't know Yah's law. And we talked about even the prophets.
Israel forgot.
But we were even talking about the prophets. Was it Haggai we were talking about last week? Who didn't know Yah's law, and he's like, go ask the priests. They know. The priests know the law better than I do.
He did know some rules for cleanliness.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, we need to jump in because this is going to be, I don't know how long
this
is going to take.
Okay, so we're in Daniel 7 today. If you've been joining us for our Daniel study, we're halfway through the book. Congratulations. You made it halfway. You have graduated because the Daniel 1 through 6 is the Sunday school lessons. It's everything we heard in Sunday school. You never heard anything past Daniel 6, really. I mean, maybe every once in a while the pastors would preach about it, but it was...
more to do with the rapture and the 7-year tribulation? Maybe?
Sure, yeah. This is Daniel 9 is where we get the 7-year tribulation, and maybe even Daniel 7 they might talk about here and there, but I mean, there's been people throughout history for thousands of years trying to figure out what Daniel's saying here.
And we are too.
Yeah, we are too. Yeah,
Ours is a working theory.
yes, we do not have the answers here. We are going to do our best to,
Explain.
yes,
Got a lot of explaining to do.
yes, explain, yes, explain what is in Daniel here, with extra text. Okay, and this is we can't possibly fit it all in one video. There's so many extra texts that we could put in here, and the more you read, honestly, the more it just muddies the water. I mean, there's so much. I'm gonna probably read a little bit of the vision, the 14th vision of Daniel, and the Armenian 7th vision of Daniel in this, and but even that is going to be like, maybe this is something totally different than we were even thinking.
Yeah.
I was watching a YouTube video the other day, a couple days ago, and one of the guys pulled out a verse in Daniel and said, "This is Elon Musk." I'm like, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm not saying it's not, because it could be, but I'm just like, I've been doing this for 10 years, pulling out verses in Daniel and saying, look, this is Obama. Look, this is Biden. Look, this is, and if we just read Daniel in context and read it with the lens of the prophets, so read it through the prophets. So hopefully we're going to be able to throw some other prophets in here so we can understand the whole picture. They're all talking about the same thing, pretty much. And so if we can use other verses, especially extra biblical, especially Apocrypha, there's a reason they took the Apocrypha out of your Bibles. There's a huge reason they took Second Esdras out. But all these books, when they take them out of your Bibles, there's a meaning for it. They had some amazing insight on some of these visions. And, by the way, even if we do think we got this figured out, I don't think Daniel didn't even know what he was seeing. Yeah. All prophecy is veiled, every bit of it. What's that verse? Prophecy. We prophesy in part.
Yeah, we know in part and we prophesy in part.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, they're prophesying. They're not even seeing the whole picture. Okay. Prophecy. All prophecy is a spiritual reality that will have a physical manifestation. Okay, so when we see like they're seeing a spiritual reality, but the physical manifestations could be totally different. Just like Yeshua is coming, our Messiah is coming, 490 years, he'll be here. And then he showed up as a suffering servant, as someone who probably looked homeless, probably very skinny, I would imagine. I mean, he was fasting a lot. And very weak, probably. There's some writings, it's extra biblical, the Gnostic Gospels.
Yeah.
But and they talk about Yeshua, when you would see him walking towards you, you would be like, that's him? Like, that's the guy?
Yeah.
But as soon as he would get to you where he could look you in the eye, it says that you would just like melt in front of him, because he could see through you. You could feel him looking into your heart and into your soul. And it was like, you were like, oh my goodness, that's him. But from a distance, like physical appearance, he was weak. And what were the Jews expecting? What were the people at the time expecting? They were expecting a Saul. They were expecting a king, Saul was tall, strong, he was well built, and they're like, oh my goodness, that's our king. We're going to follow him wherever he goes. That's what they were expecting, because they were expecting the Messiah to show up, tall, strong, and lead them to fight, to rebel against the Romans. And it didn't happen that way. So the physical manifestation of the spiritual reality, which is the prophecy that Daniel's seeing, is totally different.
Yeah.
Maybe not totally different.
Yeah.
But it's a little different. So it's hard to be able to put these into,
buckets.
Yeah. I mean, we can figure out what these things are, but obviously we're going to talk about Alexander the Great. He's not a leopard. I mean, he's a person. So there's things like that. So when we're seeing him Daniel's seeing him as a leopard, is he a leopard in the spiritual reality?
Which kind of goes back to not like you are what you eat, but how we were talking about don't be like a pig. Don't, like these.
So how is he like a leopard? That's
I don't know. That just popped in my head. It's not anything we talked about, but I was like, okay, maybe there is some characteristics of those animals that are innate in the person.
Could be.
That we talked about in one of those videos.
It could be. So that's incredible. I don't know. And it's hard for us here because we tend to think of the physical as more real. when in fact the spiritual is far more real than the physical. The physical is an illusion. The spiritual is a reality.
Yeah.
So when John sees Yeshua, with looks like he's polished bronze and head of wool and these things. I mean, this is what he looks like.
Yeah.
He's terrifying. I mean, eyes of flames of fire. That's what he looks like. The physical reality of him is much more toned down. Just like angels, whenever we see angels, I mean, half the time they're scared to death, falling down dead in front of them. And the other half, sometimes they're just men, It depends how they manifest themselves. But, all right, I don't know why I got into that. But I guess just to say that there's so much information here, this might be a two-parter.
And we might miss some things too. I mean, it's possible that, like you said, we might not cover. We're going to do our best.
We are going to miss things.
Well, okay, yeah. Let's just go ahead and put that disclaimer. We will miss things. And anybody that's following along and studying with us, please share. Your revelations, your insights, your knowledge, your understanding. Please,
according to Scripture, please post Scripture
yeah.
because that's what. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's obvious, but
yeah, okay,
well, maybe not. I don't know.
I don't like people. I'm just saying, there's so many opinions about Daniel, and we want to know through text.
Yeah.
Text should be leading us. These scriptures, these ancient texts, should be leading us on what these things are.
Yeah.
And because I mean, you can pull. I see verses in here. I'm like, I mean, this happened last year when Trump was inaugurated. I could say that. I mean, I could. I don't know. There's things in here that look like our time, but is it?
It's what we have said before, though. A lot of this is for our example. It's for the example of the generation that's reading it. And I do believe that a lot of this is for our example. Everything.
Absolutely.
The whole Bible is for our example, but even prophecy is for our example, even if it's been fulfilled.
Yeah. I mean, history repeats itself. There's
That's
reiterations
true.
of Babylon. There's reiterations of Antichrist. There's tons of Antichrist. Just like the fig tree generation is reiterated. I think we're experiencing it now. We've got people waking up all over the world to Yah's ways. I don't know another time in history when this happened except the fig tree generation. That would be the only other time that I can think of. I mean, maybe if there was a millennial kingdom kind of awakening, there might have been.
Yeah.
But I think the millennial kingdom started with destruction. But are you ready to get started? You look like you're like, come on,
I'm good.
Talk. All right.
There's so much to say, though. I mean, it's
okay. So this might be a two-parter. We're going to try to keep these videos under or at an hour.
Okay.
So they're a little easy to watch. So you want to go ahead?
Okay. So we're in chapter 7, and somebody commented on another video asking, are we going to reorder these chapters based on their chronological, based on the chronological view of them? And we said, no, we want to just stick with it how it's written in Scripture. But obviously, as we go into chapter 7, this is the first year of Belteshazzar, king of Babylon, and it really fits more so in line with chapter 4, right? True.
Yeah. First year, because chapter 5 is it's a little further on. Belshazzar, it's actually the day before he loses his kingdom.
Yeah.
So this is the first year of his reign.
So recognizing that, some of this is, say, out of order.
Sure.
But we're just going to, wanted to preface the chapter by saying that. Okay, let's do it. In the first year of Belteshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, giving a summary of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I was looking in my vision by night and saw the 4 winds of the heavens stirring up the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I was looking until its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and it was given a man's heart. And see another beast, a second, like a bear, and it was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said this to it, arise, devour much flesh. After this, I looked and saw another, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and rule was given to it. And this I looked in the night visions, and saw a 4th beast, fearsome and burly, exceedingly strong. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the rest with its feet. And it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. keep going? Or do you want to?
Well, we're definitely going to come back to all this. I guess we can just.
I can keep going. We can read and.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I was thinking about the horns, then saw another horn, a little one, coming up from among them, and 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots before it. And see, eyes like the eyes of a man were in this horn, and a mouth speaking great words. I was looking until thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like clean wool. His throne was flames of fire, its wheels burning fire. A stream of fire was flowing and coming forth from his presence, and a thousand thousands served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judge was seated, and the books were opened. I was looking. Then, because of the sound of the great words which the horn was speaking, I was looking until the beast was killed, and its body destroyed and given to the burning fire, and the rest of the beasts had their rule taken away. But a lengthening of life was given to them for a season and a time. Stop there. I'll keep going.
Let's go to verse 14, because
Okay.
I think that's probably where we might end the
Perfect.
video.
Okay. I was looking in the night visions and saw one like the son of Enosh, or son of Adam, coming with the clouds of the heavens. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And to him was given rulership and preciousness and a reign, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His rule is an everlasting rule which shall not pass away, and his reign that which shall not be destroyed.
That's amazing.
Pause.
So, how many times is that we've counted so far?
So I think between starting in Daniel 2 to Daniel 7, we have, 7 right now. We have 7 times
that Daniel says the kingdom is forever. And that's hopefully what you understand. We believe. We've always said that the kingdom is forever. Even though we believe we're post-millennial reign and we're in the short season, the kingdom is forever. That means when it was established, that it hasn't ended. It's still here today. Obviously, this is what Gospel of Kaledi talks about. We mention Gospel of Kaledi all the time.
Yeah.
So many instances. I mean, we just need to do a whole talk about that, about going through Gospel of Kaledi and talking about the Millennial Kingdom. It's all about the Millennial Kingdom. And why wouldn't it be? Because that's the gospel. The gospel of the kingdom was prepare, repent, for the kingdom is coming. Get
Near.
ready. Yeah, it's near. It's right here. You need to be ready for the kingdom. And so anyway, so the kingdom is forever. So the 1,000-year reign that we talk about is mentioned only within the canon. It's only mentioned in Revelation. It's mentioned in the 4th book of Enoch, Enoch 4. Which, take it or leave it. And
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. We're not leaving any scripture or anything.
Unturned.
Yeah, unturned. I love them all. They all have something to gain from them. And you can chew the meat and spit out the bones. But there's some other extra biblical texts too that mention the 1,000-year reign. But it's not something that's really talked about that often. And I think that we've said this before, but that 1,000 years is really the definite time when Hasatan is put in the bottomless pit, chained up during that 1,000 years. So that's kind of like, I think when we see the 1,000-year reign of Messiah, but the reign of Messiah is forever. When he went and sat on the throne, he was on the throne. He's sitting on the right hand of the Father still today. He's still reigning. He is the king of the earth. These kings think they have rule. They don't. And we shouldn't be giving them authority. The king is our Messiah. And it's our job to bring on the kingdom. Okay. So I think that's incredible because so far we have 7 times. I know there's an 8th time coming up.
Yeah.
And probably some more. I can't remember.
There's more. I'm just writing them down as we go.
As we go, yeah. Okay, so this first beast he sees, it's like a lion. Now, after this, it's going to have the interpretation of the dream. So we're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves. But the thing is, the interpretation of the dream doesn't go through all the beasts. The interpretation of the dream really concentrates on the 4th beast, but he doesn't even really describe it in that either. So it's up to us to do some digging and keep searching for that treasure and find out what this is, But the first beast in verse 4 is like a lion.
Eagle's wings.
Yeah, eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. we had talked about this earlier with Babylon, with King Nebuchadnezzar. But you'll learn later on, it's in verse 17, it says, "These great beasts which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth." They are the four kings of a kingdom. Now we could go through here and say, okay, they're individual kings, but I think we're going to be able to see, especially when Daniel 11, with Daniel 2, and with Second Esdras, and Baruch, and Enoch.
Which is why we're pulling in all the prophets.
Yeah, they will all kind of show you that these are kingdoms with kings.
Yeah.
With kings
Four
as their
separate kingdoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like America. I mean, if you say the United States or America, most people would agree. If they had to prop up some leader, it would be George Washington or Lincoln or something like that.
Yeah.
They would prop up certain leaders that stuck out more than the other, like Trump. Or something like that. They're not. No one's going to put up Jimmy Carter. And say, oh look.
Even though he lived the longest.
Yeah, he has lived the longest.
I don't know if he lived the longest. No, he just died, I think.
He did? Okay.
I mean, I don't think he lived the longest, but he had like a really long life.
Well, okay. So, anyways, so who is this? The one that's like a lion.
Mm-hmm.
He had eagle's wings, and he beheld till the wings thereof were plucked off. And he was lifted up off the earth and made stand upon his feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And we just read about this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Pair this with Daniel 2, okay? These are four beasts. He also saw four kingdoms on the statue. The first kingdom was Nebuchadnezzar on the throne, the head of gold. It's Babylon, okay? And if we just think about what happened to Nebuchadnezzar, he turned into an animal. He started to grow feathers like an eagle, talons like an eagle, and he was made to eat the dust of the earth. We talked about this in our Daniel, whatever chapter that is, Daniel 3 or 4. But we talked about this about transhumanism, about the CRISPR technology they're doing today. This stuff was going on then. We read in a book called Sir John Mandeville. I reference this all the time, but he talks about the children of Ham and the children of Nimrod were involved in this all the time. They were mixing creatures constantly. They were mixing animal DNA with human DNA, creating these hybrid creatures, creating men with birds' heads and men with dog heads and things like that. How did we just get kicked off the internet?
I don't know.
Anyways, there were so many things like this that were happening, and they were doing this and creating these things. So we kind of assumed that I think it's in the writings of Abraham, I cannot remember, but Nimrod actually turned himself. He found incantations. He found the writing, the words that were delivered from Cain, the secret words that were delivered from Cain, and he actually was able to turn himself into a giant of some sort.
Sorcery.
Yeah, sorcery. And we see all these images of ancient Babylon, and at least what we're given as Nimrod, he's like a half lion creature with wings. He's got wings, and it's like even some of the ones that show him as a man standing on his feet, he's got eagle's wings. I think that Nebuchadnezzar, born under this regime, was doing stuff just like the Watchers were teaching, just like Naamah, her mom had taken the potion from the Watchers, and just like we're doing today, we're waking up and. I was vaccinated as a kid. Yeah. So were you. As a kid, we didn't know. Of course, we didn't make a choice, but our parents didn't know. But we're waking up being like, oh my goodness, what have we taken? What have we done? Yeah. I should have said that word. But anyways, what have we done? And I think that's what probably happened to Nebuchadnezzar. He woke up one day and eagle's feathers were growing on him. Yeah. They were doing something to the genome. So I do believe this is Nebuchadnezzar. And what happened to him? I mean, he was humbled. He was made to be humbled for 7 years.
Yeah, but he was lifted up first, right? I mean, isn't that kind of what that means? Like he was lifted up to the earth and made to stand. Like he was sort of like he was the ruler of the whole world.
That could be what it's talking about.
I thought something else.
Well, I thought he was lifted up after he was humbled.
Oh, okay.
And then because it says the wings thereof were plucked.
Oh, he's plucked.
And
okay,
then he
you're
was
right.
lifted up.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, so 7 years, he's having to live like this eagle that he was just trying to do what everyone was doing in Babylon. Hey, take this stuff; it makes you stronger, and you can grow feathers. It's pretty cool, And so, but he was made to live like an animal for 7 years to humble him, and then he was lifted up as a man after that. He was forgiven and got to take over his kingdom again. And so I do think this is Babylon. If we go to Enoch 89:101,
Can you read it?
Well, sure, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, this is the we've done a video on this. It's the cow prophecy, and it just goes through time, through different, just different generations, history, and everything in the scripture, and it's comparing these people to animals. But it's interesting what they talk about Babylon.
And they left the sheep in the power of the lion, so that very many of them were devoured and swallowed up by lions and tigers, and wild boars preyed upon them. That tower they burnt and overthrew that house.
I think it's amazing because this is obviously Babel, and they compare them to lions.
Yeah.
And so here we have, Nebuchadnezzar being compared as a lion, Babylon.
Okay.
So the next one, we just go down
Second beast.
Yeah, go down Daniel 2, the statue.
Yeah.
The second beast being Persia. Persia's the next one. It's prophesied that Darius would come in and strip the kingdom from Belshazzar, and he did. And so this is mentioned in Daniel. We'll get there. I think it's in Daniel 11. Yes.
You want to read it?
Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, Daniel 11 is when Alexander the Great takes it from Darius. But it was prophesied that Persia was going to come in and destroy it. I'm not sure what the three ribs are. I would say that it's possible that the three ribs are Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes, the three main kings of Persia that we hear about and that are prophesied. They're actually the three that gave the command to build the temple. So that's why it's so hard to figure out how this 490 years was fulfilled for Messiah. It's definitely close no matter who you use, but Cyrus is prophesied to give the command. He did. Darius gave the command to build the temple, and then Xerxes gave the command after that. We find that in some things in Esther and the additions to Esther. But anyways, so you have these three kings. I think that's the three ribs in the bear's mouth. So verse 6, it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. This is the next beast. Just go down the line of the statue, and the next beast is Greece. This is the, which part of it is it? Is it the legs,
head of gold, the third reign of bronze that rules the earth.
Yeah, which part of the...
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
It's like the thighs or something.
You partly some of the strength of iron. Yeah.
I can't remember. But anyways, so this is your next beast, and why? I mean, we'll get into, I keep having to say we're going to get into this, but we are, because Daniel's going to explain this later. This is the kingdom who was strong, and then when it was at the height of its power, the king died, and his kingdom was split in 4 ways. This happened. This is Alexander the Great. He reigned for 12 years. He died in his 30s. I think he was 31 or 32.
His belly and thighs were bronze. Sorry.
His belly and thighs. Okay, were Greece. Sorry. Okay, so he at the strength of his power, he died. I think he was in his 30s.
Right.
And as soon as he died, they split his kingdom up in 4 ways, 4 different sections of the Grecian kingdom. So this is what it's talking about. It says, after I beheld, lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings. It's 4 wings of the fowl. Okay, so if we go to Daniel 11:3, it says, we'll go to 11:2. I'll just read that. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. Okay, here's your 3 kings that we were just talking about, the bear with 3 ribs. It's Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes. And the 4th shall be far richer than they all. Well, I would say, okay, so I had written here, I'm kind of skipping ahead of ourselves, but Xerxes was actually the richest of them all. He was the greatest one. So it might be Cyrus, Cambyses, and Darius. But I was kind of going with the 3 ribs because the ones who gave the commandment. But it says, far richer than they all, and by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Okay? And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. Alexander the Great, just like we were just talking about. In verse 4, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for the others beside those. Okay, so this is the leopard. Okay, and you just mentioned that. It's really interesting. We should have done some study on the leopard and why why are these.
Well,
they're actually compared to three unclean animals.
Yeah, they
here.
are. Well, and it does say like the behavior of a leopard is extremely territorial. They prefer to hunt alone, so they prefer to kind of have the
sounds like Alexander the
have
Great.
the dominion. Yeah, that's kind of as you're like as we've talked about Alexander the Great. I'm like, and it says they avoid any competition over food and other predators. But it seems like that they like to kind of have dominion over the land that they have. Like they want to hunt alone. They don't want to share.
And it says avoiding any competition over food and other predators. That's interesting too, because a lot of the things you read about Alexander the Great, what was I just reading? Something about him. I can't remember. Oh, it was the. It's
a better memory than me.
Oh man, I can't remember it. One second, let me get it.
Okay.
All right, so this book, the Beowulf manuscript. Okay, I know people like, what, he's reading from Beowulf? But the manuscript is what's important. Now, whether or not Beowulf is true, I don't really know.
But it does
but the manuscript is what's in it. The Passion of Saint Christopher, the Wonders of the East, the Letter to Alexander the Great. Even the Book of Judith is in here. I'm sorry, the Letter of Alexander the Great to Aristotle. The Wonders of the East is fascinating. When I've talked about John Mandeville, this just is one more thing to kind of give some credence to that. And the Letter of Alexander the Great to Aristotle. This is that thing where he's going around and he's conquering these nations. And the amazing thing about it is he almost gave them, he allowed them to be sovereign. So he would go and conquer them, say, okay, now I rule you. I've conquered you, and if you don't behave, I'm going to come back and conquer you again, utterly destroy you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you be your nation. You can still be your nation.
Yeah.
You're just mine now.
That sounds like somebody else. I know, like a ruler today. It's funny how some of these, rulers seem to kind of repeat.
Yeah.
Anyways,
he's going through everywhere, just through all the world. And he's not like sending his men out. He's actually on the front lines himself fighting.
Yeah.
So Alexander the Great was pretty awesome. There is quite a bit about him too that he gave homage to Yahuwah. A lot of these kings did. Obviously Cyrus, we just talked about, in Persia. Nebuchadnezzar did. In the writings of Abraham, the pharaohs were getting circumcised and they were like submitting unto the will of Yahuwah and doing the Torah. You have people throughout history just all the time. These kings who are these Gentile kings are submitting to the Most High Elohim. And Alexander the Great was no different. He actually, in this book, the letter of Alexander the Great to Aristotle, he actually is let known at his death. He's prophesied to him. So, when he was at the height of his power, he died. There are some different accounts that he died of sickness, but what I have read is that he was poisoned. So when he died, his kingdom was split in four ways. These are the four wings. We just read it in Daniel 11:4, that it calls it the four winds of heaven. And it was split in the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt, the Seleucid Empire, Pergamon, and Macedon. So four different empires were split of Greece, and they ruled in different parts of the world. All right, now we've made it to the fourth beast, okay? And just follow your statue in Daniel 2. We concluded, along with many other people, it's not like we found some brand new information, that this is Rome. Okay, this is talked about everywhere. I'm a little bit iffy on whether it's Rome or not. I would be okay with being wrong, but I do believe it is Rome right now.
Your alternate theory though is Tartaria.
Yeah, my alternate theory would be Tartaria, for different reasons that maybe we'll get into, and probably in the second half of this video, because I think we're already kind of nearing the hour mark. But but yeah, so let's just go with
Rome for
the
now.
Rome for now. I'm not saying it's not Rome. I do think it is Rome. The 14th vision of Daniel kind of gives you some idea that could be Rome and Greece are actually the same.
Okay.
And why wouldn't it be? Because we have in the New Testament, Rome's supposed to be ruling Judea, and what does Yeshua say? He's saying that the Jews desire a sign, the Greeks desire. Actually, I think I shouldn't say that because I think it's Gentiles and KJV says Greeks. But
Yeah.
I think that's what it says. But the Greeks are always mentioned. The whole world became Hellenized. So you have the Romans doing the exact same thing the Greeks were doing. They just had different names for their the pantheon of gods that the Greeks believed in. But it was this exact same thing. I don't know, when we look at this, Daniel 7, the fourth beast is different from all the others. It's terrible. It's so different from all the other beasts.
Yeah.
Okay. So was Rome really different than Greece? It doesn't appear that way. Now, I think it might have been because of, maybe not the very beginning, but as it morphed and evolved, Rome became Christian, but kind of a different. They kind of overtook righteousness and redefined it.
Yeah.
So I think that will make sense with the rest of Daniel 7. Also, Second Esdras, clearly tells you it's Rome. There's a lot of there's things in the Dead Sea Scrolls where it talks about Rome being Edom and also Kittim in the Bible. And so it's telling you, hey, this fourth beast, this is Rome. It's here. So I think there's a lot of support, biblical support for this being Rome. And kind of go back over it. But verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns, and plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay, he's going to explain a little bit the rest of Daniel 7 about this beast, but it doesn't really give you that much information. And so these horns are always kings, usually. I can't think of an instance where it's not, but the horns, when they're mentioned in prophecy, it's just a king right on the beast, kings of an animal or a nation. Okay, so like I said, okay, how are we going to define what these horns are? Who these are. We have to read in Scripture. We got to find this in Scripture, and there's a lot of things within Enoch. Just going back to where we were in Enoch 89, the cow prophecy. We did a video on this, so go check it out. I don't know if it's good anymore.
If we still agree, well,
I have to rewatch these.
I said that about another video. I was like, go to this video. I was like, but I don't know if we totally agree with ourselves completely. That's a great thing.
Well, yeah, we're changing all the time. I don't know. I would say for the most part we agree, but there's something I can think about right now that I would change about this.
Sure.
But anyways, this is Enoch 89, 117. It says, "Yet was there Adonai silent until all the sheep in the field were destroyed. The shepherds and the sheep were all mixed together, but they did not save them from the power of the beasts." Okay, so these are the four beasts. Now, if you read this in context, I'm not going to read all of 89 and 90 Enoch, but in context, it's talking about these same beasts. I read you the part about Babylon, the Tower of Babel here, but it goes through Persia. It also gives, it also talks about Ezra and Nehemiah coming back to build the temple.
So it really helps define each of those four.
Yeah, it kind of helps. Yeah, it gives you some just extra to this, some more meat to this text.
Yeah.
And then we read in 90, and it says, 90 verse 2, it says, "Afterwards I saw in a vision that all the birds of heaven arrived, eagles and avis, kites and ravens. The eagle instructed them all. They began to devour the sheep, to peck out their eyes, and to eat up their bodies." Okay, the sheep is Israel here. Yeah, so here it doesn't say it's the eagle, but when we read through, we're about to read Second Esdras, but here in Enoch as well, the fourth kingdom is the eagle. But Second Esdras really, it tells you, hey, this fourth kingdom, it's an eagle. Here's how it's going to look. It's got different kingdoms coming out from it, which are the feathers. But this is interesting because we read about these beasts, okay, and power is going to be given to this eagle to try to wipe out the sheep. Okay? And in the end of Enoch 90, all of a sudden, this character shows up. Now, Enoch calls it the Dabala. I have tried to figure out what this word means. If any of y'all have done some study on this, please put it in the comments because I'd be curious to know anything about this word. But clearly, this is the Messiah character. Okay, so when did Messiah show up? At the fourth beast. This is synonymous with Daniel 2. It says the kingdom will be set up in the midst of these kings. So when you have the four kingdoms, he tells you Babylon is the first one, Nebuchadnezzar. The next one's the Persian, the next one's Greece, the next one's Rome. So in the midst of all these kings, that's when the kingdom is set up. We said it before, it's the cankles of the statue. It's set up literally right at the fall of Rome, or nearabouts at the end of Rome, between the feet of iron and clay, the mixture of Rome throughout the nations. And this is in 2nd Ezra 13, which we're going to read here in just a second. Okay, so let's go back. So just to finish out Enoch 89 and 90, the cowl prophecy, the Dabala, this Messiah character, comes to basically exact vengeance upon this fourth beast. And the fourth beast is the eagle that's he's basically just calling the whole world to come and kill the sheep. Let's get rid of the sheep. Let's rid them of the earth, which we know Rome destroyed the temple under Vespasian Titus. They destroyed the temple, and then they went about, they were going beforehand, but they went about for the next 300 years trying to rid the earth of the belief in Messiah, utterly destroying all the disciples, except for maybe John, but just brutally murdering the disciples, the apostles, and all the people going around and preaching the good news of the kingdom. They wanted to stamp it out. Which is exactly what we read about this fourth kingdom. It was strong. It broke everything with its teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped out the residue with the feet of it. I mean, it's trying to stamp out the gospel. The good news is trying to stamp out what's left of Israel. We read about this in Revelation 12. Revelation 12, it's literally right after the man-child is given to the woman, and Yahuwah brings the man-child up to heaven. And what happens right after that? The devil, the serpent of old, comes down to devour the woman and her seed, and those who keep the commandments. He's going around trying to kill and get rid of the earth of that. He's stamping it out, just like this fourth beast. So if we just follow this out, it's incredible. And I didn't mean to shift all the way to Enoch 90, but it's really incredible because you have these four beasts. You have the Messiah character coming to stop it. And it says, verse 26, 90, verse 26, it says, I saw also that Yahuwah the sheep came to them, and taking in his hand the scepter of his wrath, seized the earth. And I saw too that a large sword was given to the sheep, who went forth against all the beasts of the field to slay them. Okay, we talked about this so many times. If you want to understand the millennial kingdom time structure and how things are going to happen, according to Revelation 20, look at Enoch 93. Enoch 93 is incredible because you have, it basically divides the history of the world up into weeks. Okay, so you have Enoch 93, and the sixth week, the end of the sixth week, the house of dominion is burnt with fire. Okay, when did this happen? Now, if you just follow it all the way, this is a timestamp telling you it's 70 AD. This is when the house of dominion was burnt with fire, destroyed by Titus. Okay, and so I'm just paraphrasing, but it you learn beforehand that it's not when Babylon destroyed it. So if you just follow the timeline. But after that is a perverse generation, okay? So the weeks are somewhere, they probably overlap. They're about 700 years, but they overlap. Some are a little longer than each other, okay? So that next week, a perverse generation happens. It's when Rome was allowed to stamp out Israel, the woman, try to kill her. Everyone that kept the testimony of Yeshua, everyone that followed the commands, trying to stamp it out, okay? After that, a sword the next week, the 8th week of righteousness, a sword's given to the righteous, to the saints. They are a sword's put in their hand to exact vengeance across the world on all the beasts and the enemies, okay? This is when dragons were killed. This is when they were going around trying to get rid of all these things. And this is when they started making, in the Enoch 93, in this 8th week, They are building habitations, cathedrals. They're building a house for the great king. And this is when Yeshua was allowed to rule. Now, he was ruling before, but this is when his power started to become. Okay? And we read this in 1 Corinthians 15 as well, that every dominion is supposed to be brought under him. Every single dominion. And the last dominion, his last enemy is death. So that hasn't happened yet. So we're waiting for that point to happen. But this whole time, this 2,000 years that's happened, so-called 2,000 years, all it's been is every dominion being put under him. Every dominion being put under him. And when he's done, when death is destroyed, he delivers the kingdom back up to his Father. And of course, that's when the kingdom is here. New Jerusalem comes down out of heaven as a bride. Okay? So,
yeah. No, I'm with you.
All right, no.
I'm with you. I'm letting you speak.
No, yeah, I'm going to lose my voice after this. Okay, so let's just finish out Enoch 90 because it's incredible. So
Do you want me to read? Can I read?
Well, you can if you want. I'm just reading
you're not.
these.
Oh, no, okay. Then go ahead.
It says, and I saw a throne erected in a delectable land. Upon this sat Yahuwah of the sheep who received all the sealed seraphim. It's Millennial Kingdom, guys. Okay? Right after the Messiah character comes, sword given to the righteous, the saints, to destroy the beasts. Okay? There's so much here, but we're going to read in 2nd Ezra 2. The beast, the last beast, the fourth beast is the phoenix. Okay? It's destroyed with fire. But the phoenix rises from the ashes, okay? So it's destroyed with fire in the 500s, and for 1,000 years, we don't really see the phoenix coming back in its previous form.
Okay.
But it does come back. It's the iron mixed with clay. So we see it again after the Millennial Kingdom, okay? But right now, this is when the Millennial Kingdom starts. Yahuwah is sitting on the throne in his delectable land. Now this is paradise, okay? We just did a video called Paradise Lost and Found. Check that out, not to promote our videos, but to promote like the scriptures that we wanted to throw in there because it's amazing. Because I think there is a lot of evidence that paradise was found. They knew where paradise was.
Yeah. They couldn't get to it necessarily, or they weren't allowed in, right?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of people who were trying to. I think it's Zosimos or something.
Yeah.
There's Apocalypse of Zosimos or something. I can't remember. But this guy, literally, I think he fasted like on and off for 40 years he just wanted to go to paradise, and eventually he was allowed to go in. You also have Paul was allowed to go to paradise as well, at least for a vision. Paul or someone that Paul knew. Okay, he's not very clear on that subject.
Yeah, but the vision of Paul is good.
Just to be clear, I love Paul. Okay, but I love giving him a hard time because anyways, all right. So let's just keep going. Enoch 90. And then after that, after the Millennial Kingdom, you have the Watchers being judged in Enoch 90, which is the time we're living in. I think the Watchers have come back with the Industrial Revolution, with the Renaissance, the reawakening, the rebirth of society after the Millennial Kingdom. And they're going to be judged. I think we're awaiting that judgment right now.
And they are wreaking havoc.
Yes,
right now.
They're wreaking havoc, yes.
Yeah.
And I think there will be seen more in... more out in the open the longer we're in this state that we're in this season. Let me just mention this and then I'll go to here.
Well, sorry. Maybe we should just stop with that after we'll come back to Ancient of Days in the next video. Maybe pick up here.
Okay.
Because we're really, I think you're about to lose battery too.
Oh no. Okay. There's just so much here, guys. We're trying to fit it all in here because we have to read 2nd Ezra with this.
Yeah.
That'll really seal the deal that this is Rome right here,
Fourth beast,
the fourth beast.
Yeah.
Although Rome could be Tartaria, the idea of that. Okay. But anyways, and this is really amazing. It says, I stood, this is verse 38, I stood beholding him emerge that ancient house while they brought out its pillars, every plant in it, and the ivory enfolding it. They brought it out and deposited it in the place on the right side of the earth. I also saw that Yahuwah the sheep produced a new house, great and loftier than the former, which he bound by the former circular spot. All its pillars were new, and its ivory new, as well as more abundant than the former ancient, which he had brought out. Okay, so, I love this verse because we did, a couple videos on the temple. We want to do more because there's so much more information that we've come across. But the temple actually being round, the same as the tabernacle. Andrew Hoy has done a huge study on this, as the tabernacle being a round dome-shaped structure. But the temple was also, in my opinion, Solomon's temple, and all the temples after that. I think the third temple is the Dome of the Rock. Actually, in my opinion, it's the fifth temple that was built. But the third temple known by, common history. Because everyone's waiting for this third temple. And what do they want to do? They want to, at least I heard as a kid, for the third temple to be built, the Dome of the Rock has to be destroyed. Well, wouldn't that be funny if the Dome of the Rock was actually the temple and they're trying to destroy the temple to put a cube on there? To put this big cube that is actually just Babylonian architecture. That's all it is. And so it's kind of funny that they're trying to get rid of Yah's architecture, which is a dome-like structure like the firmament, and taking it away and trying to put cube structures, which is the buildings of Nimrod. Okay. But anyways, so there's a lot. I know people are gonna be like, oh, Dome of the Rock, click, but they're not. But there's a lot of information there. But anyways, it's formed on the same circular spot as the previous one. All right, so let's go down verse 42. Then all who had perished and had been destroyed, every beast of the field and every bird of heaven assembled in that house, while Yahuwah of the sheep rejoiced with great joy, because all were good and had come back again to his dwelling. And I saw that they laid down the sword which had been given to the sheep and returned to his house, sealing it up in the presence of Yahuwah. Okay, so this is all after the millennial kingdom. They return the sword. Who returns the sword? The saints. The saints lay down their sword that was given unto them. The righteous were given a sword to exact vengeance. At the end of the millennial kingdom, they returned their sword. They said, okay, here you go. You have given us peace in our house. Okay, our time is up. Okay, so this is also in the ascension of Isaiah. Like I mentioned, Enoch 93.
What's in the ascension of Isaiah?
Like I mentioned, Enoch 93, Enoch 90, the sword given to the righteous, and they're going to lay it down. This is an ascension of Isaiah chapter 4. It says, man, I just have to read this whole thing. It's so good. But
or encourage people to go read Ascension of Isaiah.
Go read Ascension of Isaiah. Chapter 4 is incredible. Chapter 4 tells you the lawless king, the horn that's standing up with this fourth beast is Nero. Okay, he's the lawless one. He was the killer of his mother. It says, let's just read this real quick.
Okay.
It says, after it is consummated, Beliar, the great ruler, the king of this world, will descend. Okay, Revelation 12, the king of the world descends after the man-child is brought up to heaven, being Yeshua, brought up to heaven. Devil descends, and he's going after the woman, okay? So Beliar, the great ruler, the king of this world, will descend, who hath ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from his firmament in the likeness of a man, a lawless king, the slayer of his mother, who himself even this king. Okay, so... I didn't even say it. Who himself, even this king. That might be interesting. Okay, so Nero killed his mother, Agrippina. Okay, it says who himself, even this king. Did he slay himself?
I don't know.
Is that what it's saying? Because Nero killed himself, according to official history. Although the Talmud says that Nero didn't kill himself, he actually converted to Judaism.
Yes, it looks like slayer not only of his mother, but also himself.
That's amazing. I never picked up on that.
It's crazy.
I just now found that's incredible. Okay, so according to official history, Nero actually killed himself. Okay, but like I was saying, the Talmud says that he became a Jew and actually went to the temple and studied under Judaism at the time, which would be
people just flipped off after you said Talmud.
Well, it'd be fascinating. Okay, Talmud. Okay. Anyone knowing us, we're not promoting the Talmud, but Okay, so which would be fascinating. I think Rabbi Akiva is a descendant. Anyways, okay. Verse 3, it says, he will persecute the plant which the 12 apostles of the beloved have planted. Of the 12, one will be delivered into his hands. Of the 12, one will be delivered into his hands. Obviously, Nero killed Peter. Okay, of the 12. He also killed Paul as well.
Paul wasn't a 12, though.
Yes.
Sorry.
But this is in Revelation 12. He's going to persecute the plan of righteousness. He went after the woman, the one that kept the testimony of Yeshua and the commandments of Elohim. You want to be part of Israel, there's two things required there. Commandments Yeshua. Commandments, Yeshua.
Mutually
Yeshua
inclusive.
commandments. Yeah.
Inclusive, not exclusive.
That's right.
Boom.
They're the same thing. You have to be the same thing. You can't believe
one
in
without
Messiah without keeping the commandments. It's his ways. You can't keep the commandments and not believe in Messiah because it's the word. You have to believe in both. It's the same thing.
Preach.
All right. So, okay, the ruler and that's a different part. We could talk about that, but I don't want to. Okay. So isn't that amazing? Okay, so we have Rome right here. Lawless king, the lawless one that's talked about in 2 Thessalonians by Paul. The lawless one came, actually killed Paul. So let's go to verse 16. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure that's right. Okay. And to all who, because of their faith in him, have execrated Beliar and his kings, but the saints will come with Yahuwah, with their garments, which are now stored up on high in the seventh heaven.
Wow.
It says Lord, I'm saying Yahuwah, but with the Lord they will come, whose spirits are clothed. They will descend and be present in the world, and he will strengthen those who have found in the body together with the saints and the garments of the saints. And the Lord will minister to those who have kept watch in this world. So you have saints coming down, but you still have people keeping watch in this world. And these are the people that, the saints are those who execrated Beliar and his kings. They didn't listen to him. They're like, we're bringing on the kingdom. Like it or not, you can kill us. I don't care. But we're bringing it on. We're going to live righteous lives for Yahuwah, for Yeshua. We're going to keep his commandments. We're going to do what he told us to do. You can do whatever you want. They boiled them alive. They, skinned them. They crucified them. All kinds of things, and they didn't care.
Just a plug for that book, The Great Commission. We've mentioned it before, but if you're just watching us, The Great Commission gives detailed accounts of the martyrdom of the apostles of Yeshua that are not in the canon. And I would encourage anyone to go pick up at least the first two books that are on Sacred Word Publishing's website, because they are just incredible. I'm sure you can read them online too, but I just love a book. But yeah, you just keep bringing it up, and I think it's important. It's an important piece of history post-Yeshua, pre-MK, where these disciples were truly bringing on the kingdom. They were bringing on the millennial kingdom, I should say, and sacrificing their lives for it. And it's just, we don't even have an understanding of that period of time. Anyways.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's so different from what we're living today. The kingdom started with death.
Yeah. It
started with Yeshua's death and resurrection on the cross. But it started as a seed. Like the kingdom of heaven is like a tiny little seed, and you plant it, it grows up and becomes a huge tree. Yeah. It started out as a dead seed. These apostles, these disciples, these 70 that went out into all the nations, they had to die. They died horrible deaths, but they were that seed planted. And when it was resurrected, it was the saints, okay? Enoch 93, the 8th week of righteousness. This is right after the temple's destroyed, okay? After the perverse generation. And it says, afterwards there shall be another week, the 8th of righteousness, to which shall be given a sword to execute judgment and justice upon all oppressors. Sinners shall be delivered up into the hands of the righteous, who during its completion shall acquire habitations by their righteousness. And we could just talk so much about that. But they're acquiring habitations. This is in Amos 9. This is in Obadiah. This is in every Isaiah, Ezekiel, everywhere. They're acquiring, they get to inherit the wastelands of Edom, the wastelands of Jerusalem, all the places that are to be destroyed in Jeremiah 25. All these places are going to be destroyed. They all were. Every one of them. Baruch 72, I think. 74:1. In Baruch, 2nd Baruch, anyone who's had their hand in Israel is destroyed. They get utterly wiped out, and the saints get to inherit it. Now, anyone that's had their hands in Israel, these are the 4 beasts of Daniel.
Yeah.
They all had their hand in Israel. They all got wiped out, utterly wiped out. Now, we're going to read later on in Daniel. We're not going to get there today. But Daniel says that those nations are prolonged, that they have a remnant left. Just like Greece is still here today. Persia's still here today. Babylon, maybe. Babylon's still here today. It's in Iraq.
Yeah.
So it's still here today. And Rome is still here today. But it's not their former power. This is also in Enoch. We're gonna get there. Believe me. I hate to keep plugging stuff and not talking about it, but we're gonna get there later on in this chapter, but let me just finish reading this. Um, this is kind of what we were trying to get to, is the millennial kingdom, when the saints were allowed to take vengeance on the kings, the evil people in the world, and minister to those that were keeping charge here in the world still and keeping righteousness. It says, verse 17, it says, and afterwards they will turn themselves upward in their garments, and their body will be left in the world. They're turning their swords down. They're saying, no more. This is exactly what I just read in Enoch 90:43. And I saw, and they laid down the sword which had been given to the sheep, and returned it to his house, sealing it up in the presence of Yahuwah. They went back to the house in the presence of Yahuwah. Now, there are two houses here, the one in the delectable land and the one in the former circular spot. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they went back to paradise. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, 1,000 years is up. Devil's being released. You guys want this renaissance happening? You guys,
peace out.
Peace out. Yeah, that's really good.
No more peace.
You're so funny. But that's what it was.
You can count on me for the levity in these conversations.
That's what it was.
There's just I'll be honest, there's just so much. I'm sitting here quietly because I'm just taking so much of it in, because you have spent so many years reading and studying and just pulling all this together and connecting these dots. It is so much for my brain, but I love every minute of it. So I'm just saying that I'm like,
but that's what it was.
I'm kind of being a student right now.
It was well, I mean, we're all students. We're just constant. I mean, we just read something, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it says Nero kills himself.
Yeah.
But it does. Which is, so, I mean, all these books, let's put them all together.
Yeah.
And really figure out who Daniel's talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if there was multiple texts saying that Daniel 7:25 is Biden, then I'm okay with it. Okay. I'm just saying, I hate to even say Biden, but anyone. If it's Elon Musk, like I said, I just watched a video, a pretty popular YouTube channel, and they said this. They said this is Elon Musk in Daniel 7:25. Okay, and so I was like, okay, whoa, wait a second. Let's read this in context. Let's put all these texts in and try to figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah, and historically, not just looking at prophecy as a future thing.
Yeah.
We've been looking, has prophecy always been futuristic? And we're still in this, it's a future state. Yeah. 2,000 years later, to your point. But I think truly bringing in the historical, I don't say narrative, but the historical accounts as we know it, what has been told to us, along with this, really a comprehensive understanding.
Yeah.
I think that it's so needed, because you cannot read Daniel in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. You just can't. I mean, we can't read it like that anymore. Yeah. But I think if you do read it in a vacuum, you're just reading Daniel for Daniel, you could put in anybody's name into that.
Sure. And they have throughout history. We have, and to me, like you said, futuristic. I think the biggest cop out of ever is futurism. To say that this is in a future thing. Yeah. It's hard to say this already happened. To me, that is way harder, because you have to have backup. You have to have proof. Yeah. Anyone can say, "Oh, that didn't happen."
But your counter argument to that has been, when we've had these conversations, show me that it hasn't.
Yeah, show me that it hasn't happened.
And I'll show you proof it has.
Yeah. Because there are so, I mean, you just can't even put it into a video like this. Yeah. There's so much proof in these things already happening, and but it's important here. We're not even going to get into the horns.
No, I think we're going to have to press pause on the
okay,
horns.
So we're coming back to Daniel 7. This might take months to finish Daniel. No. But we're really going to try. It won't take that long. But so far we've been really good. I'm proud of ourselves, because we've been weekly, which is really good. Yeah. So let's just keep going.
Yeah, we'll just keep going.
This is fun.
Next week we'll come back with the second half of Daniel 7.
We didn't even get halfway through. We got to verse 8.
Did we?
Yeah, we didn't get to the horns.
Okay, so we'll start it. It had 10 horns.
Yeah, so we do want to talk about these horns. If this is Rome, who are these horns? Who are these kings?
Yeah, we have a theory.
If it's Tartaria, who are these kings? I'm curious about that. I do think Tartaria is part of Rome, possibly. Rome has many iterations throughout time. I think they're just reinventing themselves, especially during the Millennial Kingdom. They had to kind of, go places where they couldn't be found, into the wildernesses and kind of get the remnant out. because Christianity, and I say Christianity as a whole, is when I say that I mean former Christianity was taking over the world. Not modern Christianity. Modern Christianity has become completely lawless. But former Christianity was righteous people keeping the commandments of Elohim and seeking Yeshua about everything. They loved the word, and they were standing up for the testimony of Yeshua and the commandments of Yah. And did they get some things wrong? Yeah. We are keeping the Torah today, and we're getting things wrong all the time. They got some things wrong, but they were so obsessed with holiness. And when we look at what we call the Dark Ages and that period of time right after the fourth beast, there's something that's conclusive around the whole world, especially when we read alternative history, but even regular history. Something that's conclusive around the whole world is holiness mattered. Like, it was a big deal to be holy, to be for a man to be a knight. I know it's kind of funny, but we read like things within the Colburn about being a knight. It's incredible, and these things were not bad things. They weren't things of fairy tale or the Disney Channel. That being a knight was to be a man of holiness, seeking Yah's ways instead of your own, and dying for you and your family, like dying for things that mattered. And that's what we look about when we see medieval times and Dark Ages. It was about holiness. They wanted to be holy. And slowly it degraded over time, like you said. Peace out. As soon as the saints left, the Renaissance was brought on, and all of a sudden, everyone's roided out and naked in paintings. It's kind of weird. What's going on here? That can't be a good thing.
You got the Black Death and
all these things that happened at during that time, and look where we are today. Have we really gotten better? Has anything gotten better? We had this industrial revolution come in, the reteaching of the ways of the Watchers, and now we're having a technological revolution. It's all the same stuff. It's just the teaching of the Watchers all over again. I hope that made sense. Hopefully we covered enough.
We covered a lot. You covered a lot.
Well, it's hard to, it is really hard to figure out what this is. But we'll go back through verse 8, I guess verse 7.
Yeah.
So we made it to verse 7. So we'll see you next week, and hopefully we can finish the chapter.
We'll conclude the chapter.
All right.
Bye. Have a great day.